my screen also, so if I can have the right for that.
You should have. You should have that.
Awesome. All right, I can start now?
Yeah, whenever you're ready. Yeah.
Awesome. So I'm going to share my screen real quick. This is step one. So welcome, everybody. My name is Samuel. I'm from Fleek, and I'm going to talk to you about how to use Fleek for Ethereum dApp developers. I know you guys are learning a lot about Ethereum and also about IPFS. So just a quick introduction about myself. I work at Fleek since about 2 years now. And before working at Fleek, I was an Ethereum dApp developer. So like I was doing like front ends for dApps using MetaMask. And one of the projects I used was also using like the Polymath protocol for security tokens. So I empathize a lot with like the pain points and the process of creating dApps. So this presentation, I focus entirely on being as useful as possible for you guys that are going to create Ethereum dApps and interacting with all this very interesting tech. And at the end, I will post also a bunch of resources that you can consult. So it's going to be very like hands-on and practical. Also, what we're going to do in this presentation, we're going to just want to start a timer. All right, that's good. I also want to we're gonna deploy a Ethereum crypto app, so a non-fungible token app. This app uses like Fleek for hosting, and we store the NFTs on IPFS. So it's gonna be very hands-on this whole thing. So let's get started. So just an overview of the products that we are offering at Fleek that are useful for dApps developers. The first one, and I would say probably the most useful for a dApp developer, is Fleek Hosting. So when you create a dApp, very often you have a front end that uses maybe a provider like MetaMask, for example, and you use that to talk to Ethereum. So this front end, you need to deploy it somewhere. And that's where like you can use Fleek to deploy your application. And it's all done on IPFS. The second product that we're also going to cover is Fleek Storage. So of course, IPFS, no, it's a file storage system. And there's some interesting application that we can do using non-fungible tokens, for example. So I'm going to also cover that in the presentation. So to get started, what is Fleek Hosting? So it's all about hosting a site on IPFS. We did the flow so that it's pretty easy. And for example, if you think about Netlify, they have a flow that is easy to follow to develop deploy your application. On Fleek, we have kind of the same thing, but it's on IPFS on Web3 protocols. You can connect your GitHub project to Fleek, and then once that is done, once you push a new commit, it's going to automatically deploy a new version of your site. So like once you have set up your Fleek site, it's very hands-off, like it's all taken care for you. So it's pretty useful in that part. Also, it comes with a built-in CDN. So when you push your site on IPFS, it's also we're also going to give you a URL that is going to be deployed on a CDN like a Cloudflare. So you don't have to like compromise because you're using web protocols. Your site can still be performant, the same as a Web 2 app. That's another like important aspect of this. But first, we should answer the question like, why would you want in the first place to host a site on IPFS? Why not just use like AWS, Heroku, or something like that? Well, it's important because we want to make our dApps truly decentralized. So when you make a dApp, decentralized application, it is decentralized in the sense that you're talking with Ethereum. That's in the sense in which it is decentralized. But the front end itself, if you host it on AWS, if you host it on Google Cloud, then it's not really decentralized because you're using a centralized server to serve your front end. So the advantage of hosting your site on IPFS is that you're actually using a Web3 decentralized protocol. And with that benefit, it also comes the other benefits of IPFS, which I'm sure the IPFS team talked to you about, like censorship resistance, for example. And also, it's a new thing we did recently. Your sites that are on IPFS are also backed up on Filecoin. So that's a cool thing. I'm not going to go into what is Filecoin. I'm sure the IPFS team talked to you about that. But it's kind of a cool thing that we're adding to Fleek. All right, a new thing I want to talk about is ENS, the Ethereum name system. So I got an image of our God and Savior, Vitalik. But pretty much, let's just go like, what is ENS, the Ethereum name system? So we all know what DNS is, the domain name system. So let's suppose you go on google.com. The google.com site is going to be reinterpreted as an IP address, which is the resources that you need to go consult to get the website. Well, ENS is pretty much the same thing, but it's on the Ethereum network. So it's a set of smart contracts that manages the ownership of domains. Generally speaking, Ethereum name system domains end with .eth, but it's not necessarily the case. And you can attach to your ENS a IPFS hash that points to your website. So that's where you can connect Ethereum and IPFS together, so that not only your website is decentralized, but also like the domain name system that you use is decentralized. And if we have time later in the demo, I might cover that. It's going to depend on the amount of time that we have. And Fleek in this, we allow you to connect your dApp to an ENS domain. And we take care of the site updates. That's important because on the ENS registry, there are an ENS, an IPFS hash that is written over there. And when you make new updates to your site, this hash needs to be updated. So it can be kind of a problem to update this hash yourself. It's a lot of hassle, but we take care of this flow automatically for you so that it's much easier to keep your site updated. Like if you look at a lot of sites that are deployed on IPFS and ENS, but not on Fleek, they're not updated very often because it's really a hassle to go on the ENS app and update your site. So it's useful to use Fleek in this regard, to be on IPFS and on ENS. I also want to cover something that's going to be new about Fleek soon, IPFS versus IPNS. So maybe the IPFS team talked to you about that in the previous presentation, but on Ethereum, the ENS name system, you can put an IPFS hash over there. The problem is that when you make a new update, you need to put a new IPFS hash. Right now, Fleek, we take care of this update ourselves. We update the hash for you. But soon, what we want to do is integrate IPNS. And if you know what IPNS is that it's like you have your public key that allows you to update what is the new hash that your site should connect to. And that pretty much allows you to have a non-changing address that points to your site. And soon at Fleek, because right now we are spending a lot of gas to update the IPFS hash for our clients, customers. So what we're thinking about doing is we want to actually use IPNS. So what we would do is ourselves, we would take care of keeping your IPNS address up to date with the correct hash. So it's kind of a change that will come soon in the future. But the fundamental idea doesn't change, is that we're taking care of keeping IPFS updated for you. Here I have a bunch of resources. By the way, we also have a YouTube channel of Fleek, where I created tutorials on how to deploy on IPFS. I also recently created a tutorial on how to deploy on Definity. It's another blockchain that uses an internet computer. So it's also an interesting Web3 protocol that is worth looking to it. At the end of the presentation, I'm going to copy paste all these links in the chat. So you don't have to worry about copying any of that. All right, so now we're going to do a demo. And by the way, it's going to be a live demo. So if something doesn't work, we're going to roll with the punches. I'm going to escape this and open a web browser here. Oops. I'm going to go on app.fleek.co. So pretty much, if you want to deploy a site, go on fleek.co, create an account, and you will be able to deploy site. Now, I have a bunch of sites because I play a lot with our products, of course. But we want to deploy an app. So the first step to deploy an app, you need to have your code on GitHub, because right now the only way to deploy your site is from a GitHub repo. So I'm going to go on GitHub and show you the repo I want to deploy. It's this one. This, and I think it's crypto museum. It's this, but without the demo, I think. So it's this. So this is the repo that I want to deploy. It is a non-fungible token application. So that's kind of cool. It uses Ethereum, and you need the Ropsten network to use it. So we're going to deploy that. So what I'm going to do is go and add site. I'm going to connect with GitHub. Luckily, I'm already connected. So I just do that. I'm going to select my account, not the Fleek one. And then I can search for my repo because I have a lot. It's this one. And now I can select the hosting service. We want to host it on IPFS, but you can also use Definity. Like I said, it's an experimental, a new thing we launched a few days ago. But it's IPFS, the focus of this. So we do continue. And now it's going to, we need to input our build settings. I know the framework is React, so I'm going to do this. It's going to fill my build settings. So it's I think it's correct. I can do deploy site. Actually, I think I did a mistake with my settings. So it's not a big problem. I can go fix them in the settings. Here, I can. Oops, my build commands are still showing. Pull and deploy. If I refresh. Yeah, they're showing here. So I got the build command, which is just like the command to build my my site, and the directory that is going to hold my site. So in this case, it's a React app. So it's the standard React app scripts. But there's also this base directory. So here I have this repo, but my app is in fact in the app folder. So I need to just say that I need to run those commands inside the app folder, the app directory. I'm going to save that. And there's a last change I need to make is the Docker image. I think it didn't load here, but my Docker image is the one for React. So if we go on Docker Hub, Where is it? Here, Docker Hub. Can I go on the Fleek organization? Because with Fleek, we provide some Docker images in which your app is going to build already. Repo. So these are all our images. And the one that's interesting to us is the React app. So I'm going to do that. And as you can see, you can use various Node.js version. So like with my crypto museum app, I know for a fact that I need to use Node 10. If I use the most recent Node version, it's not going to work. So if I want to use this, I'm going to copy this. Actually, I can just type it here. I want to use the Fleek/create React app Docker image, and then to use a specific Node version, I need to apply the correct the tag. If I don't give a tag, it's going to use the latest one. So to use a tag, I'm going to do this Node-10 because I want to use React Node version 10. So I'm going to save. And if I go to the overview, I can trigger a new deploy. I'm going to trigger a new deploy. And we're going to let this site build in the background and do something else. And later in the presentation, we're going to go back to our app. So let's go back to the presentation. I wanted to show ENS, but I think we won't have the time. So I'm going to skip this part. So I'm going to give the app. Go back to the presentation and let our app build. So now we just hosted a site on Fleek. It's pretty easy. You give your build settings. It's built within a Docker image, and you let it build. And if I want to make an update to my site, I just push a commit on GitHub, and it's going to update my site. And so that's how hosting on Fleek works. It's the same as Netlify, so it's pretty easy. Now let's talk about the second part of this presentation, Fleek Storage. So what is Fleek Storage? The point of Fleek Storage is to store images, videos, things that you will use on your website on IPFS. You can do it in two ways. We got this user interface. You can drag and drop files to upload them, or you can use Fleek Storage.js to do it in a programmable manner. And just like Fleek Hosting, it's built on a CDN. There's all these features, these modern Web 2 features built on top of it. So why would you use Fleek Storage? The first use case is if you have images and videos that you have to display on your site. I'll give you a specific example. In the past, I was working on the Fleek blog, and it was before we had created Fleek Storage. And what happened is that I was putting the images and videos directly on the repository in the file. And what happened because of that is that the build took forever because it was using Gatsby, and it had to process all these images. And like, if I wanted to start like the project on a web server, it would take like 3 to 5 minutes to do that, and it was like very, very slow. And the solution, what was it? Is to use Fleek Storage. So instead of putting the image directly in my application, I can use the URL to link to it, and that makes the build time much faster. So it's recommended that you put your web assets, like in your images, on a cloud service like Fleek to distribute them. And it's an IPFS, so it's unlike AWS and Google Cloud, it's decentralized. And the second interesting use case, you can use it to store files on non-fungible tokens. We're going to talk about it right now. After I talk about Fleek Storage.js, right? The wrong slide. But yeah, we have a Fleek Storage.js, so it's a JavaScript library. So you can add files to storage to IPFS, you can delete them, you can view them, so it's pretty useful. And the app that's deployed uses Fleek Storage.js. It's an interesting use case. And now we can talk about non-fungible tokens. So here on this image, if you go on foundation.app, it's an interesting application where users can buy and sell non-fungible tokens, art non-fungible tokens. So it is non-fungible token to have an image or a GIF or something like that attached to them. And this industry is becoming very big. For example, I was looking at the CryptoPunks Twitter, which is a one non-fungible token. And like each CryptoPunk was selling for like $100,000, $200,000 for a bunch of pixels. So it's pretty crazy, like what is happening with the NFTs. But let's go back to this. So the NFTs, very often, they contain a piece of artwork, like an image or a video or a GIF. And this link generally is put in a URL, and then this URL is written down in the Ethereum blockchain. But the problem is that using a URL is bad. And I give an example, like if someone was very lazy and, for example, he shared on Imgur his image, that's bad because Imgur can remove the asset, or there's no guarantee that the asset has not changed. Meaning that the URL refers to a location, it does not refer to an actual file necessarily. The link could also be broken, and then that non-fungible token that was worth $100,000 is now useless. The better solution, instead of using URL, is IPFS hashes. They're way better than URLs. IP hashes, you can store them on Ethereum, and the cool particularity about them that you might have learned previously is that they are based on the content. So if I change even one pixel of my NFT, the hash is going to be different. So there's a guarantee that I have the ownership of the non-fungible token. So it's recommended that if you're going to make a non-fungible token that uses art, use IPFS, do not use URLs. All right, so now we can do a quick demo, and we're going to demo the app that we have deployed previously. I'm going to close this. Now the app is by now deployed. You can use verify on IPFS to see your app on IPFS. But what you're going to do is copy this. And then I'm going to go on Google Chrome because I have MetaMask on there. So here it says connect MetaMask. My password. And this app, by the way, only works on Rupston. So if you try on mainnet, it will not work. All right, so here we got this this app. So what this app does is that you give it an image and it mints a new non-fungible token. So if I choose an image, let's do this meme about Putin on a bear. I can then click on create NFT. That's gonna create, it's gonna call Fleek Storage JS. I will show you the code afterwards to push our file to IPFS, and it's gonna create a transaction on MetaMask. So here I create a transaction. I can then confirm. It's on Rupston test network. And now it's going to mint the token and it's going to show in the collection. Now I think I have a bug with the gateway. Yeah, it's using the temporal gateway. That's why it's not showing over here. But if I take this IPFS hash and I use another gateway like ipfs.io/IPFS, then now it shows the image was like correctly uploaded. And if I go here, you can even look at the smart contract of the Crypto Museum in read contract. Here, each token is represented by an ID. So I got token 42. So, and my image has appeared. So let's look at the new image, 43. So CID, token ID 43 is going to give me back the IPFS hash. copy that. And if I go on ipfs.io/ipfs/the hash, my image should be on ipfs. Is it the correct URL? Oh, there seems to be an actual problem. Oops. ipfs.io/ipfs. Yeah, I think we're having a bug somewhere, but I will fix it after. But basically, if I do with the 42 one, this will show you the correct image. The 43 should actually show up, but maybe we have a problem. So I'm going to show you the code of the crypto museum really quick. So if I go code dot, and here I'm going to zoom. Oops. Right. So here we have the smart contract that is called. It's a mint contract, and in mint, you pass in the IPFS hash, and all it does is create the new token and associates the IPFS hash to it. And then here, that's the function that we called earlier, that if we give it a token ID, it's going to give us the IPFS hash associated with that token ID. But let's look at the code really quick. Here, I think I fixed the bug, but it's not. I don't know why it showed the temporal gateway, but it's not too important. Here, so this one is using like another version of our API, but basically you pass in the access key, which you can get on the Fleek website, and all it does is it pushes the value to a bucket. So on the background, Fleek Storage is using like a bucket AWS S3 type architecture. And then what we do simply is, based on the file that was uploaded, we put it on IPFS, and then we create a transaction with the NFT. So it's not like the app is not too complicated, but it uses our Fleek API. And just to give you a last resource, because the time is almost out, here on doc.fleek.co, I encourage you to come see it, because there's a lot of information. For example, if you want to use Fleek Storage JS, they're showing you how to install the library, where to get the keys, and we describe every function that we have. We also talk about doing integration with AWS S3. That's something different. So let's go back to the presentation to finish things off. So here, some resources, I'm going to post them in the chat. But to recap what we've seen in this presentation. So there's just two things I want you to remember about what we talk about right now. The first thing is go on Fleek to host your site on IPFS. Like if you have a DApp, you really want to use Fleek to host your DApp. It's probably the best way to do it in a decentralized manner that is respectful of the Web3 principles. And the second thing to remember is Fleek Storage. You want to use it to store your web assets. And if you have an NFT project, you really want to look into this. I'm going to copy some resources in the chat right now. Fleek Ethereum resources, so that you guys, there are some YouTube videos and things like that that you can you can see. So it's really pretty useful for you guys. So I'm going to copy paste over here, enter. So that's it for the presentation. So anyway, I hope it was useful. There definitely was a lot of material that I presented, I think. But it's all things that I think should be useful to you guys. I don't know if there's some questions, but I can also answer them.
Yeah, thanks for that, Samuel. It's really nice to learn about all of this. And I think you've made things almost too simple now to have people who put stuff on the, host stuff in a decentralized manner. Do we have some questions? I think
I'm scrolling through the chat. I'm seeing who pays for the Filecoin backup. Right now, it's us. So this feature is at its infancy. So right now, we take everything. Fleek takes care of doing the backup, of paying for the backup, of all the settings of the backup. In the future, we want to add more flexibility to this feature. So it's like a very early stage feature, but it's cool that we're going in that direction. There's also is Fleek like decentralized Argo CD? I'm not sure what Argo CD is, but a good description of Fleek would be Fleek is like decentralized Netlify, decentralized Vercel, VERCEL, a bit like that. If I go back to the chat, is there a Fleek Discord community? We don't have a Fleek Discord community, but we have a, I forgot to mention that too, a Slack. So Slack, I think that's the correct link. You just see. I'll give you the link right now because our Slack here. Okay, it's posted in the chat. Slack.fleek.co. You can get some technical support over there. You can even suggest features. Like for example, there was a dev that was using Fleek Storage.js and was like, hey, there's no way to delete anything. There's no delete method. And then like, oh, that's a good point. So after a few days, I added the delete feature, and there was a new version of the Fleek Storage.js that included the delete. So like we were very responsive with our support. So it's a good resource. Like if you get stuck, if your build does not work, maybe you have a bug. For example, when I was doing the crypto museum, there was a bug that it was not going to IPFS. Maybe it was that my key is a dev key. Maybe that's the problem. But anyway, like you can get technical support if you encounter something where you have questions.
Right. How exactly does deletion work? Like, because it's different, right? I think with IPFS and everything. Could you shed some light there?
For sure. So on IPFS, it's not deleted because, of course, the content, the CID never disappears. It represents your file, and as long as someone, I guess, hosts pins your IPFS hash, it's going to be available on the IPFS network. But on the background, how Fleek Storage works is we are using Textile. Maybe I can give you the link for that. It's textile.io. It's like a form of a database on IPFS, kind of. The link is in chat. And we're using that. And we're using Textile threads and Textile buckets. And what happens with Textile is that your file is in a bucket, very similar to Amazon AWS S3. And what we're doing when we delete it, we just remove it from your bucket, and then you have a new bucket. It's just what happens in the background using a Textile.
But then if still somebody has the CID,
yes, then
they can still access that, right?
Exactly, but only if it's pinned. So with Fleek, we provide the pinning. Pinning means that you distribute the content of the file to the network. So if you delete it and no one else is pinning, then indeed the file is lost. But if someone is pinning, of course, that's a feature of IPFS. You can always have access to the content of the file. It comes with being censorship resistant.
Right.
Characteristic of IPFS.
Okay. Yeah, that was just something I was curious about myself, because I was checking out other things also, maybe even Arweave, and So they talk about, yeah, like permanent data and stuff like that. So, but sometimes you might want, some data to not be there, like objectionable material. So, yeah, I was like just wondering how that could be solved.
Well, on Fleek, well, yeah, so you cannot delete something, but on Fleek, we also have another product that I did not show in this presentation because it's not too important, but it's space storage. So the idea behind space storage, it's storage on IPFS, but everything is encrypted. So if you have a material that you don't want shared because on IPFS it's like public, then you can use space to encrypt it. So once you delete it, even if someone has access to the file, you cannot read the content because it's all encrypted. And we created like a Dropbox type product that allows you to host your files on IPFS while being encrypted. I can give you the link in the chat. Space.storage. So the site to the app. You can actually create an account. It's in beta right now, but we open source the tooling that we used to create our app. So if you really want to create a privacy focused IPFS app, you can use our Space SDK for that. But it's a bit more difficult to use than Fleek Storage, yes.
Sounds great. Sounds great. Are there any other questions? Yeah, so for basic usage, like, is it available for free?
Yeah. So so like we have our tiers, but our basic tiers are free. Like a lot of things on Fleek are free. Like I think we give up to 3 sites for free. I think I'm not sure the number, but if you would just want to deploy like your site, you should be fine. Similarly, for Fleek Storage, it's free up to a certain amount of gigabytes. I'm not sure what the number is, but it should be fine for your basic usage. Also for ENS, the Ethereum name system, which is important, like if you make any Ethereum dApp, right now we cover the costs of doing the hash update, and we also cover the cost in the future when once you switch to IPNS, it's not going to come at an extra cost.
Okay. So you probably get, so all of these folks, they have built dApps. Maybe we can get them to get them on Fleek, and I'm sure they can reach out on the Fleek Slack if they get stuck anywhere.
Yeah, for sure. We have all kind of Ethereum dApp developers that have their dApps on Fleek, so it's a good place for like Ethereum dApps for sure.
Yeah. I don't think there are any other questions for now. So yeah. Thanks a lot, Samuel, for taking the time. I think there is one question.
In case the owner of a file wants it deleted, is there any mechanism for nodes that have pinned it to unpin it to avoid hosting metadata? Well, if you delete it from Fleek, then Fleek doesn't stop hosting it. But if an other node wants to pin it that you have no control over, then there's nothing you can do about it. It's kind of a feature of IPFS. Yeah, exactly. Like that would have to do with on the IPFS protocol level. Like I said, IPFS is censorship resistant. So if I want to protect a piece of data that the government wants to delete all people who pin the file, then they can't really stop it.
I think it's also then a good idea about looking into maybe encryption. That's interesting.
Yeah, that's where a space storage comes in. It's the encrypted version. So like Fleek Storage, like you would use to host your web assets, so that these things are public. Like you don't care about the privacy. You just want to share it to everyone that goes on your website. If you have a non-fungible token, you want to share your token, obviously. So the privacy part that comes with the Space app, the Space Storage, it's it's done specifically for that problem. But if I host an asset that is encrypted, how do I share it? Well, I need the key on the client side to decrypt it for them. Yes, you do. And on Space, one of the features of Space, the SDK and the app, is that there's management of the keys included. So all the sharing, like if you want to share with a specific person, you have to use their public key to create a version of the app of the file that they can access. So there is like permission management using keys with Space, like you're saying, and you're gonna need like your key in order to decrypt the app. Right now, this key is we use a server that is a vault, and your key is protected by we're using like a Ethereum public and private key, so that only you can have access to your keys. So like your files are secure in that manner.
Yeah, I think that's it. All right. Thanks a lot, Samuel, for making the time. Yeah, I really like that all the possibilities that this opens up. It's really cool.
For sure. So I was really happy to be here and help you guys like being the future Ethereum dApp developers, because I was just that in the past, and I think it's like actually useful tools for you guys for the dApps that you want to create.
Yeah.
So anyway, thank you for hosting, and I hope you guys have a nice day.